Hey, what's up? It's Jake, and we're going to go over some Terraform tests again. And spoiler alert, your test stages are very similar to the previous unit test video that we did, except this time we're going over integration tests. Now, in the code world, you would take a function, isolate it, and do a unit test on that function. And when you would take multiple functions and you would do integration tests to find out how the functions interact with each other and how well they integrate. So in the test stages in Terraform, what you're really looking at doing is taking two modules and testing them together. So in this case, there's a database module and a Hello World app module, and then you validate everything, and then you take them apart, you destroy them in reverse order that you created them. So similarly to the unit tests, you have the option to run Terratest on the validation or whatever you're doing. But if there's no web apps that you're validating, which really isn't the responsibility of Terraform, you can, and that's arguable, you can just validate everything manually and then go back and destroy everything. So the ideal workflow recommended by Terraform Running 2 would be to apply your two modules, and then you do the iterative development, which would be make a change to the app, run Terraform apply, deploy the updates, run validations. If everything works, you can go back and do it again if you need more, and then destroy everything when you're done. So the fastest way to do this is with Terratest, and you can write a function that does all of this for you. Again, you're just adding another layer where you could Terraform apply, check the plan, double check the plan, Terraform destroy, and that's fine. But infrastructure as code, in my opinion, is not the best place to be validating application functionality. This is specific to application, and what I would do is I would have separate unit tests and functional tests that look at the actual app that's being deployed and not have Terraform do this, because Terraform does have limited functionality and you're better off doing something a little more dynamic and using actual tests, application code tests, to find out whether or not that is working properly. Because even if you do run Terratest and you get your return codes back that you're looking for, it doesn't validate the functionality of the application. It just gives you a return code to tell you, hey, this is actually up and running. And while that may be useful, again, you can do a simple, uh, hey, hit this endpoint and tell me if the return code is 200 and avoid integration testing altogether. I don't think that testing really has a place in Terraform. Um, I'm probably super unpopular for saying this because you can write these tests all day long and they will return the codes you're looking for, but it doesn't validate that your app is working correctly as intended. So I think it would be better personally to just avoid this very long way of saying you have to do a Terraform apply, check that your infrastructure is good to go, and then run Terraform destroy. Now, whether you actually automate that testing process or not is up to you, and you can use Terratest and go look into Terratest and check it out. But I don't think this is the best place for this kind of stuff. End-to-end tests, again, it's just the next level from integration tests. So I'm not going to make a separate video on it because I have the same opinion. And that's that an end-to-end test is just using all the modules you need to do the exact same thing. So whether you're doing integration tests or end-to-end tests, all you're doing is confirming whether or not something is deployed correctly. And I think most of us actually do this. And what they do is you Terraform apply your network, you apply your application, maybe you apply a couple other things, and you just check to make sure that it's working. And if it's not working, you destroy whatever it is in the module that's broken and you iterate on that. And if your network is working and you have a separate module for networking, then you just don't destroy any of that stuff and you just destroy the stuff on top of it in the app layer until you get it to work. Whether or not you want to go through all this trouble to get a 200 response only to find out later from your application team that the application doesn't work correctly is up to you, but you can very simply just check this and then know if it's good to go or not. Now, for automation testing, would it be nice to put this in there? Yeah, I think it would. So I might just for fun do one test on a 200 code to see if an endpoint is working. And if that works, then we can move on. But this whole section is very long on testing. And it's mainly built on, hey, learn this Ruby language and then write these Ruby scripts, these tests, and then go, okay, now that you understand how that works, let's look at HCL and do the same thing. And since not everybody here knows Ruby, and I don't know Ruby, I don't think it's worth the time to go through the Ruby stuff, learn how tests work, and then go, okay, now here's how that works in Terraform. The other section is way more applicable, and that's that once you run a Terraform validate and you make sure all your stuff's good and you do an apply, and I went over Sentinel in a separate video, if you have policies that need to be put in place, the property testing is really where this gets in. And you've got server spec, inspec, like all these things are really probably a better option for testing. So although Hashicorp has done their best to kind of create something useful for us, I think a better option would be look at Terratest, which again is not part of Terraform, and just look at some of the examples that they have, where you import this testing, you write a function, and then you see whether or not you can get the desired output, and then you can include this as part of your process. So it's definitely something worth looking into. If only to decide whether or not you want to do it. It will save you the hassle of testing an endpoint during a Terraform or after a Terraform apply. But whether you're doing unit integration or end-to-end tests, you're essentially testing the same thing. So I don't know how useful this is. You talk to your application team and find out whether or not it is in fact useful for you. So anyways, that's it. I'll go ahead and do one Terratest example. I didn't want to spend hours going over this, just so you can see how it works. And then from there, we'll go ahead and wrap it up.